ये द सीन एक्चुअली अभी had pointed out to me. मैं भूल गया था कि वो गमले से वो उसका सिर फोड़ने की कोशिश करता है.
Yeah, I had
Um,
also forgotten it. In the Telugu one also it's there. When I saw the Telugu one, they show this.
yeah. What do you think of? So this is one scene that has Preeti, it has Shahid Kapoor, and it has the Shiv. The
Mm.
next scene where all three of them are together is when she's pregnant.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay.
So, what do you think of this scene? And um, yeah, like, what do you
The
think?
fact that they're together or
See,
something.
one thing, like the dialogue that he says, that Shiva says, कि ये लोग बहुत easily give up कर देते हैं, and how थोड़ा सा, I don't know if you remember, but Kabir I think asks, कि are all those stories a lie or something? Does he say something like that? He says
I
something on
don't
the line.
know.
Yeah, just the last dialogue when Shiva is smoking.
नहीं देखी वो, ये लोग बहुत इजीली गिव अप कर देते. अखंड पाठ चल रहा था उसको.
Yeah, he's like he women give up very easily.
नहीं नहीं, उसके पहले also, उसके एकदम पहले जा कबीर का एक डायलॉग होता है when he asks Shiva something.
जो 2 दिन होशने का तो उसको मंडप पे बैठा के शादी कर देंगे उसको. बोलो अभी क्या था मैच देखते हैं.
Yeah. So this thing I noticed in the Telugu one also. It's like, is the marriage so powerful कि within one day you get her married while I'm like, I don't know, not in a coma, but whatever, I'm in the hospital. एक दिन शादी करा देंगे तो सब बदल जाएगा क्या? इतना powerful होता है क्या? What do you think I should do? Is what he's like, which I think is interesting because it's like कि अभी तक हम इतना बात कर रहे हैं and the way he's behaving is like he's already asked her parents for marriage, and also the way he looks at the relationship is also almost like कि वो शादी हो चुकी है उनकी, like वो उनका ध्यान ऐसे रखता है कि जैसे कि वो उसका पति है, and he really views there's no difference between what his relationship is like and what a marriage would be. And so he's like completely कि भाई ऐसे कैसे होता है एक दिन में ये सब हो गया, which is somewhat just like a stupid thing क्योंकि वो थोड़ा येड़ा है, क्योंकि उसने पहले तो पूरी लड़ाई की, फिर नशे वशे कर ली, उसने पहले से बोला कि भाई तो घंटे में आ वरना मैं ये वो कर दूंगा, तो पहले उसने ऐसे एक्सट्रीम चीजें की, फिर शादी हो गई उसकी तो वो सडनली ये क्या हो गया कि एक दिन में पूरा बदल गया. एंड फिर शिवा इन रिएक्शन इज लाइक कि ब्रो तू ये बता एक दो दिन में वो ही इतनी बदल गई कि वो तेरे को बोलना ही नहीं चाहती है कुछ, तो कुछ तो सो दैट आई थिंक सबटेक्सचुअली दैट मींस कि हाँ भाई शादी में गिव अप हो, शादी हो गई तो लड़कियां गिव अप कर देती हैं करके वो उसे बता रहा है, which turns out to be wrong at the end because she actually left the marriage in 3 days or something.
Do you think Shiva is in love with Kabir?
So I was really struggling yesterday when I was watching why is he helping Kabir so much, or Arjun so much, because there are points when सब कुछ खत्म हो गया and still he पीछे पड़ा हुआ शिवा शहर में ढूंढ रहा है अर्जुन को. So I was struggling, but I think they actually made a plot idea of every time he's helping Arjun, because last में जब वो शहर में घूम रहा होता है वो इसलिए होता है क्योंकि उसकी दादी मर गई होती है, तो वो बस दादी के फ्यूनरल में ले जाने के लिए उसको ढूंढ रहा होता है. तो I think like every time there are some specific plot details which pull him, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like finding such a good friend is like is very I mean that is also a fantastical thing, I feel like. By the way, we have to get back to this topic of I really think this movie is a fantasy, and like it is not just it's like a fantasy which is really shown in a realistic way, by the way. Like people read into it as if it's like a real life movie, and that's why it's fucked up because he gets the girl so easily and he's so like a ragging karte karte ko pata leta hai karke. But I really think it's a fantasy kind of movie. It's not it's just shot in a realistic way. Anyway, we'll come back to that later. But I want you to explore more about what you're saying about Shiva and like the friendship.
उसके पहले can you tell me one thing? जो अर्जुन रेड्डी थी उसमें what is the reason why they won't let Preeti and Arjun Reddy get married. It's not exactly that they have dated in school and that is blasphemous. It has something to do with caste or community या कुछ ऐसा है. उसमें क्या point है? Do you remember?
Yes. So they are, I think, people from Mangalore who settled in Hyderabad.
Hmm.
So first of all, home में जो उनका language है, that is not Telugu. I think that's Kannada or some language. I don't know what it is.
Hmm.
But and also there is, so one thing is they're like not exactly Telugu, and I think by nature of that they also end up belonging to a different caste also.
Hmm.
So the main thing is the caste. But then I don't know why, but Arjun knows their language and stuff, and he's like, "Ki dude, I'm actually from a good family, even though हमारे caste अलग हैं." And then the guy is like, "कि तू क्या अपने privilege को use करने वाला है पटाने के लिए," which also happens in the Hindi movie. So the concept is very similar. What is it in the Hindi one?
Well, I'm coming to that. I'm just very curious. Shiva का क्या caste है उसमें? Is Shiva the same community as Arjun Reddy? Is he the same community as Preeti, or is he a third community? What is that? Because इसमें है थोड़ा सा वो like Arjun Reddy में, do you remember, or it's not explicit?
He's from the same community as Arjun, because he's
Okay.
from this part of Telangana. And I think both of them kind of are similar in that, because there is a scene which they cut from the Hindi movie where Shiva has a potential brother-in-law from London who objectifies
I
women.
loved that scene. Yeah.
Right. That first of all, that scene is one of the big differences, which is crazy that they didn't include it in the Hindi one.
Yeah.
But anyway, in that scene, what happens is he keeps being weird about women and stuff, and then Arjun kind of scolds him. Arjun talks to Shiva and is like, ऐसे लफंडर को क्यों शादी करवा रहे अपनी बहन से, देख ले. तो फिर वो जो लंदन वाला बंदा है वो पूरा गुस्सा होता है, वो कहता है, "Do you know who I am? Do you know who my parents are?" ये वो. तब शिवा पूरा चुप रहता है. बट फिर एक लाइन आता है जिसमें वो कहता है कि अभी तुम तेलंगाना वालों के ख्याल बहुत छोटे होंगे, तो तब दोनों चढ़ जाते हैं उसपे कि बोलते हैं कि अबे शहर पे मत जा करके. So that is the scene with which you can understand that both of them are from the same community. But whereas in the Hindi movie, I think they're Punjabi, but Shiva is Marathi or something, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, in the only part in the Hindi movie where they reference that London wala thing is when he's trying to get his sister married to Kabir, and when he says that just like that guy wasn't right for her, even I'm not right for her. We mention karte hain. So there's a reference to that London guy, but they don't have the setup. They have the punchline, not the punchline. They have a reference to it, but they don't have the setup.
Yeah.
But
they probably shot it but removed it.
Yeah. I obviously, this is a caveat or like a warning. I obviously don't know the community relationships portrayed in this movie very well, because I'm not that familiar with the community relationships in the film. But if one thinks of this scene, जो मैंने share करने के लिए बोला, there are a few things that stand out. One, the way he's running, it थोड़ा सा makes me feel that उस बंदे का बचपन से सपना था कि वो भागे. And like, I'm not saying he didn't want Preeti, but I think he थोड़ा wanted the struggle. He wanted the pain. He wanted it to be like war. He could have kind of gone to their house with his own parents. A lot of things could have been done. But the way he's running, it thoda makes me almost feel like he's dreamt. And I'm going to really reach here, and maybe a lot of this is extrapolation. But it made me feel like he dreamt his entire life to run like that. कि उसका मन था कि भाई ऐसे मेरे आसपास गाना बजे बॉलीवुड बैकग्राउंड में, मेरे मुंह पे ऐसे हो, भाई चप्पल तो पहन लेता. आई डोंट नो अगर चप्पल पहनी उसने.
नहीं पहनी.
I think he wanted to be like my Nange Paos, like, in this modern society, everything is so comfortable. He wanted that discomfort a little bit to make life feel meaningful. So that's one thing. The other thing is the very interesting community thing. On my preliminary reading of it, Kabir and Preeti are more from the same community than Kabir and Shiva. So the scene when Preeti's parents are hitting him, if you try to read too much into the community thing, what it is kind of showing is that two people of the same community are thoda fighting over minor differences, maybe. Let's say, I think Kabir ke usme, my guess is कि वो सरदार हैं, like ये सरदार नहीं है. but like he speaks Punjabi. His last name is Singh. So they are hitting each other, and the guy who's on Kabir's side is from a completely different community. He's like, it seems like he's Marathi.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's very interesting how they are more on the same side than these two people who are very technically more similar. Like, the Preet, मतलब दोनों दोनों पंजाबी बोलते हैं, इसका last name Singh है, वो सरदार है, like they're more similar. So that strikes me very interestingly. It's thoda, if I read even more into it, it strikes me as the Shiva character is very interesting because he's like a very good friend. It's like his one goal in the movie is just to be a very good friend. वो मुझे काफी interesting लगता है. It's very interesting why they just, maybe I'm reading too much into this, but I find it very interesting कि वो गमला वो करता है and then they stop. Like, I don't know, I just found that interesting. Um, but it's very interesting that he's like a friend from college, and they're technically more, and the only reason they met was they went to the same medical schools.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, those are just some thoughts on that scene. I'm forgetting why I found that scene impactful, and in case we don't include it, the scene we're talking about it here is when Preeti is getting married. Kabir goes to Preeti's house to tell her to not get married. They start beating Kabir up. Shiva threatens them कि वो किसी बूढ़े बंदे का सिर फोड़ देगा. They leave him. They go out and they chat about this. I
Yeah.
don't know why, but this scene was very interesting to me.
So I think two topics, right? First, I don't know about the scene particularly because I think the scene is just hilarious. Like कि गमला उसके ऊपर रखा is just very funny. So I don't know what other purpose it could serve other than comedy. But I think the more wider topics we can still have some thoughts about are about Shiva as a friend, and B is like why was he running like crazy, and you think that Kabir actually really wanted to do that. उसका सपना था कि वो ऐसे discomfort में हो पाए and वो ऐसा एक प्यार कर पाए जो uncomfortable हो या मुश्किल हो. So I definitely disagree with that, but I'll first talk about Shiva. So I think so in general in movies you oftentimes have some things that are rules of the story world, right? And that is where the topic of suspension of disbelief comes, is like, okay, this is how the world behaves. Can you make the audience believe that or not? And a lot of people, when I remember after jab movie release hui thi, tab jo critics the, they always said ki Preeti is this is just a tool of a writer and she's not a real character. And they said ki the audience is made to believe ki she just fell for Kabir and it doesn't make sense at all, and their relationship is very inorganic. So I disagree with that, and I think the reason I'm talking about this with reference to Shiva is because I actually think that Preeti and Arjun's love story or Kabir's love story are fully shown. Like they are पूरा दिखाया है. ऐसा नहीं है कि बस उसने रैगिंग कर ली और पटा ली, एंड जो ट्रेडिशनल बॉलीवुड होता है कि दिखाते नहीं है लव कैसे हुआ, बस मानना पड़ता है. आई थिंक इसमें लव का प्रोसेस पूरा अच्छे से दिखाया है. सो आई डोंट थिंक हमें अज्यूम करना पड़ता है एज एन ऑडियंस कि ये लोग तो प्यार में पड़ने वाले हैं. आई डोंट थिंक सो. आई थिंक देयर इज अ वेरी इंटरेस्टिंग एक्सप्लोरेशन ऑफ द लव, बट आई थिंक व्हाट इज supposed to be assumed in this story is actually that Shiva is the best friend. From the very beginning, the audience is kind of forced to believe कि शिवा तो इसका भाई है, and like Shiva is just there for him, and like you don't wonder at all, like it's not surprising that Shiva is helping him so much, like except the very end बेख्याली के टाइम पे कि जब ये इतना ज्यादा बकचोदी कर रहा है कबीर and still Shiva is helping him. That is when I was like कि यार अब थोड़ा सा disbelief हो रहा है मेरे को कि इतना अच्छा दोस्त जिगरी कैसे हो सकता है. But till like 2.5 hours into the movie, you completely believe that this guy is just a friend, and there is no explanation on Vanga's part that this is a best friend. So I think actually the only part which needs an assumption or disbelief or suspension of disbelief is actually Shiva and not Preeti. I think Preeti's and Kabir's love is fully shown. And it's not even like, yeah, I don't want to take critics specific names, but I remember the critics would
You
just
can,
always, sure,
if you
but
remember.
critics would always be like कि ये तो बस like there is a very a kind of power dynamic से पटाया गया है kind of thing. But I think कि काफी organic love है उसमें वो दिखाया गया है. Anyway, that is one thing. So about Shiva, which is very
Hmm.
interesting. That is an assumption. The love is actually not. And probably that's why Kabir Singh might be such a good movie, as opposed to say all these other movies where not only is the best friend assumed, but also the love is just assumed to be true. For example, रईस मान ले तू, रईस में भी एक रोल है हीरो के दोस्त का जो जीशान आयु प्ले करता है, पर उसमें जो प्यार है वो उतना ऑर्गेनिक नहीं होता है. उसमें प्यार बस हो जाता है मायरा खान के साथ एक गाने में.
Hmm.
इसमें एक गाने में नहीं होता. इसमें थोड़ा है कॉलेज का एक सीनियर जूनियर वाला दिखाया है जो इंटरेस्टिंग है, which we can talk about, like that can have its
Hmm.
own episode of why they're in love, etc. That's the
Hmm.
first thing. Second thing is, why is Kabir Singh running barefoot? Like, does he have a childish ambition or childish dream ki wo karna hai? I really
Hmm.
disagree. This third time I watched this movie, which is Arjun Reddy, I realized that this guy has these super strict rules in his head. Like he
Hmm.
has these principles that he really abides by. For
Hmm.
example, he believes that I should not have to convince anyone of why I'm right. So when he
Hmm.
punches the kids in the football ground, he goes to the principal. He doesn't tell the principal that he started it. It's Shiva who comes in the background, and Shiva is like, "Sir, actually, अगर आप
Hmm.
वीडियो देख लो, उसने पहले शुरू किया था." But Arjun is like, "Shiva, चुप रहे. I don't need to justify myself because my actions speak for themselves."
Hmm.
And towards the end also, when they meet him and when they meet Preeti and Preeti is pregnant, he doesn't tell her I um that I was like overdosed or something. He doesn't
He
tell her.
doesn't even
Shiva
stop.
tells.
He doesn't stop Shiva.
This time he doesn't stop Shiva. Yes.
No,
He
yeah,
doesn't.
but like at that, yeah. So he wants Shiva to tell or something.
Yeah, he kind of wants Shiva to tell, but he believes that he should not convince someone
Yeah.
of his principles because he knows he's right, and right things are always rewarded. Because remember, the first opening of the movie is he's an optimistic guy. He believes that goodness is rewarded, right? So I don't think that he is running like barefoot just because he wanted to struggle. The reason he's running is because he believes कि हमारा love was real. Both of us were into each other for fucking 2 or 4 years or something. Why would it happen कि मैं 2 दिन वो हो गया तो बहन जो शादी ही हो जाएगी उसकी? तो he completely believes that, and इसलिए unrealistically or even in a dreamy way, he's like कि उसको सुनाई नहीं दिया होगा. When he goes to the house, he's like अरे वो प्रीति को सुनाई नहीं दिया होगा actually क्योंकि इतना वो चल रहा था ना, but actually वो मान जाती. तो he can't believe कि ऐसा नहीं हो रहा क्योंकि he believes in principles, he believes in theory कि अगर हमने प्यार किया है तो हमारी शादी होगी, तू किसी और बंदे के साथ शादी नहीं करेगी क्योंकि तू करना नहीं चाहेगी.
Hmm.
And I think and I think and that's the I think beauty of it is that the writer and director has such a clear image of who the character is. The character has very strong beliefs, he's very assertive, but his fall from grace is the temper. And I also think the marketing, like just to make more money, the marketing was like, oh, he's short tempered but he's also self-destructive and this and that. So the problem is that makes it feel like this guy is just a fucked up psycho guy or something. The only thing, he's a tempered guy. The self-destruction is a symptom of being that tempered person who just doesn't have patience. So I think he's not a stupid guy who's just like, it's not कि director force कर रहा है उसको ऐसे बकचोदी चीजें करने की. I think they have written a specific person who's very short tempered, but he also believes in his principles. He believes that if we have fallen in love, then we are going to be together, and that's why he's so अड़ा हुआ है कि भाई हमारी relationship successful होगी.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I made थोड़े से notes. I have a few questions.
Yep.
So, how much do you think Kabir's relationship with the medical profession is similar to his relationship with Preeti?
I think that's such a good question.
He
I think
basically, like, I don't think this guy would like to play by the rules even when it comes to his life or career. Like, he's not an artist, sure, but it seems like he's very unconventional even in the way he treats the medical profession. Like, for example, anytime any of my pre-med friends in college wanted to get into a fight, I told them, "Ki bro, your hand is your most important asset. You can't break your hand, right? You can't be a surgeon if you break your hand." And this guy, apne haath se, he's punching people. So there is this almost, I don't mean to say idealistic, but maybe his idealism is fueled by his anger. But what do you think about his thing with uh his medical profession and Preeti? Do you think it's similar passion? It's different passion? Um, yeah, because
I
he is a
think,
doctor, and I find that part like I love movies that are about a different profession. So I like
yeah.
that part also.
Yeah, like his profession is very relevant to his life. Like it's not just a trivial fact of his existence. I think there is definitely a like there must be some relationship between how he is as a doctor or how he views his profession and how he views his relationship with Preeti. But I don't think they're like parallel because your question kind
Hmm.
of suggests ki, oh, are they like similar or something? I don't think they're similar, but I just think both are drawn out clearly, at least in the Telugu one. I don't remember the Hindi one because I saw it 4 years ago. But in the
Hmm.
Telugu one, yesterday I saw like when he even in the Hindi one when he's in front of a judge for having treated a patient while being intoxicated, he
Hmm.
doesn't let his brother just pay off the judges and all that. Like, because he at the end he's like, नहीं नहीं मैं गलत हो रहा है करके वो कर देता है. And he says कि मेरा career is the only thing or my profession, medical stuff is the only thing जिसमें I am proud of because I have been honest about it. So
Hmm.
I can't just lie about it now. And so he really views this, even though I think he's flawed in the sense he thinks he can treat people while being intoxicated, which is clearly like unlawful. But his was like his from his point of view is like, even though I was intoxicated, I can always treat my patients fairly, and I've never and um they've always had a positive thing outlook on me and stuff. That's just because even though he is a drunk, he is able to control himself when he's with parents, when he's with patients, etc. So he
Hmm.
generally his व्यू point of view से वो अपना काम भी बहुत मतलब honesty से ही करता है. एंड करना चाहता है, एंड अगर उसको रेस्पॉन्सिबल होल्ड कर रहा है दारू के लिए तो वो रेस्पॉन्सिबल होल्ड होना चाहता है.
Hmm.
वो उसका वर्क के साथ है कि ही बिलीव्स कि मैं अच्छा हूं तो मैं आई वांट टू बी ऑनेस्ट अबाउट इट. एंड
Yeah.
whereas in his love, I think he's similarly of the belief ki if I am an honest lover who cares for this girl and who's helping this girl. Also, in the Telugu movie, he never initiates like any sexual stuff. Like in the Telugu one, she initiates it. So it's never like he's this predator kind of guy, even though he's a senior. Like he's really just patawing her by teaching her about um,
Hmm.
whatever she's learning. And she's like, bro, this is an MBBS degree. पीछे बैठ के क्या कर रहे हो? आगे बैठो और ठीक से पढ़ो. And so he's automatically just in a day he falls in love and he's like, I'm going to be responsible for this person. So I
Hmm.
think both medicine and the girl, one of the parallels is that he believes in honesty and like being fair to the person or his field.
Hmm.
Yeah, so I guess then there's parallels. Then it's not
Yeah.
different things. Yeah, then it's a parallel thing. He is honest and yeah, at the same time his temper gets in the way.
Yeah. I wanted to like thoda mention another movie. Thoda when you were talking about um how the marketing or the framing of it was that this is just like a fucked up guy, or like this is just like a weirdo, or like he's just a negative guy. Thoda sa ek baar if you could repeat that. But I also think there's an interesting parallel to American Psycho, where like when they say American Psycho, people, the marketing was like this guy is just crazy, like he's just psychotic, he's different from everyone else. Um, and the marketing there also was that this is just a crazy fucked up guy, and he's very different from everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that he did felt no passion for his work. Um, this guy does. So I think my actual question, if I had to like narrow it down to a question, is that do you think Kabir Singh is a realistic guy at all? Like, do you think Kabir Singh could exist in real life? Do you think there's a bit of Kabir Singh in everyone? Or do you think this is like a not everyday guy? It's not like a crazy fucked up guy. There is a bit of this, or sorry, you think that it is an extreme case and very few people are like that. Like, yeah, what do you think about that?
I have thoughts, but I want to first hear from you. So you answer it first and then I can.
So, my sense of American Psycho more and more has been that a lot of people relate to it. And in that regard, even though the framing is like, oh, this is a psychotic guy, the same way the Joker ka framing is that this is a psychotic guy, but there are a lot of similarities that I think people, at least maybe it's triggered by the movie, but a lot of people feel alienated at work, and they're obviously not murderers, but I think American Psycho is more embedded in the real world than people think.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually personally think Kabir Singh is quite a extreme character. I actually think the main thing about Kabir Singh is he's from a different time. I think he's
Mm-hmm.
literally a guy who's not ahead of his time. He's from a different era in his head.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks strange given the environment of today, where we are only meant to live a hedged life or a nice life within the lines, or heroes are only supposed to be superheroes, and our fights are only supposed to be like you have Avengers or you have slice of life. The good thing about Kabir Singh is that his own life is like he's fighting real things. He's actually getting beat up in a way that's way more believable than Shiva getting beaten up in Brahmastra.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a idealistic person, but I think he seems that way because we are living in an era where it's very hard to find a Kabir Singh. Like
Mm-hmm.
most people don't fall in love like that. Most people don't get obsessed like that. Obsession is discussed as something bad. Like, I mean, we are living in the age of Tinder, right? Where like the Preeti thing is as far away from. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but if the world was not like this, it would like he's just from a different time. So he looks like weird and extreme because we are living in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but the one part that I think is very real is that the anger. I think anger is one of the few emotions that, like, if we think that we're living in a society that's very anger free, a lot of that anger is actually getting suppressed or it's going turning into potential anger in some way. And I think a lot of people related to the anger and the passion because even though people aren't living passionate and angry lives, because their biology doesn't change, right? In 2023, their expression of it changes.
Yeah.
It's thoda hidden in everyone's back of their mind. And thoda when they see it, they're like, wow, this is kind of showing something that I had hidden away or I'm not allowed to express in any way anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So that was very interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if that makes a lot of sense.
No, it does. So I think what you're saying is ki, like his anger is very real and that is actually present in everyone. And the way you're extrapolating that is by saying he actually American Psycho, even though that is more fantastical because उसमें तो वो उड़ाता है लोगों को काटता वाटता है पता नहीं क्या, but then it turns out I think it's an imagination or something. I don't exactly remember, but so even that is read as a film which is actually showing a real frustration of people. If that movie can do that, then I'm sure then you're using that parallel. I think you're suggesting that Kabir Singh is also showing a real anger that people have. I agree with that. And I think it's more abstract than just anger. And I think in one of his interviews, Vanga was also saying, ki, I think there's a Kabir in every one of us. But the point that he was making, I don't think was that the anger is in every one of us. I think what he means is there is an ideal, like there is a form of the good wala person inside all of us, which is driven by our beliefs. Like there is for everything we interact with, I think in your head you have a notion of how it should go, like how I think the world ought to be. And I think there is, and then you experience how the world is. And I think what he's trying to say is everyone has in their head what the world ought to be. And the difference between Kabir and the normal person is Kabir is acting on that. He's not willing to tell other people that this is how the world is, adjust to that. He's like कि मैं अपना तरीके जो मेरे हिसाब से दुनिया चलनी चाहिए मैं उसी पे act करूंगा. And I think everyone can relate to that because all of us want to act on our instincts, our impulses. But I don't think we're kind of allowed to do that, right? Like I don't think we can just freely for example, get married now or something, right? Because our parents will have a say in it, our friends will have a say in it. Then there's a notion of who gets married when, right? And all these things uh, will make you be like, actually, जिस तरीके से मैं act करना चाहूंगा, I don't know if that's right because everyone else seems to suggest that I should be acting another way. So I think the beauty of Kabir Singh is that he knows what he believes in, and he wants to act on that. He doesn't want to. He isn't willing to um compromise. So I think that level of Kabir is in everyone. क्योंकि सब लोग चाहते तो हैं कि मैं compromise ना करूं, but most लोग compromise कर लेते हैं. Like मैं भी compromise कर लेता हूं, and I feel like Kabir नहीं करता. So I think that is already interesting enough, and that is kind of the way that is somewhat of an aspirational kind of character which we when we are discussing the Fountainhead, we were saying that Ayn Rand wanted to do something like that, where she was making a character who people would want to be like. And I think that is what Kabir Singh could have been. But then what ends up happening is that Vanga also adds in this idea that this guy really believes in his thoughts, but he's also super short-tempered and he's super inconsiderate of other people. And that is what leads to all the trouble in his story. And I think but that also is what makes it compelling, because that's what makes him self-destructive and not just a god wala character. So I think Kabir is in everyone. Kabir and Arjun is in every one of us. And I think if there was none of the alcoholism, none of the drugs, and none of the rage, then actually this character would be someone who, like, people would be like, yeah, we want to be like that guy, you know?
Can you separate that though? Do you think rage is the only way that a person can remain pure? Because the rage is kind of against the system in some way. And
Right.
if you,
I think it's the conviction. I think it's the conviction in your belief that you think I am right for myself, at least. Because he's not telling other people to act like him. He's just saying, I am this person. And he's not saying that other people should be like me, but he's like, I am this and I'm going to act like this. You don't tell me. And I'm going to be honest about it. So, for example, Preeti's dad is like, does your dad know you smoke? And and even though you're a doctor, he's like, उनको पता नहीं है, but वो पूछेंगे तो मैं बता दूंगा, मेरे को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है. And then he's like, he's self-aware कि हाँ ये बस मेरे को आदत लग गई है, मेरे को पता है इसमें इतने कार्सिनोजन होते हैं, but it's just I just smoke, okay, and you get with it. So I think you can have conviction without the rage. I think that I think rage is definitely an imperfection that he has. It's not just a thing that fuels his conviction. But I think he's very, like, until he becomes the rage kind of person. I was like, yeah, I want to be like a person who has that conviction, you know, who can act on what he believes in without being scared.
And to be honest, so does Preeti.
Yeah. Preeti is also like that. Yeah.
Like it's arguably way harder to leave a marriage and like she's not in a marriage, she's pregnant, she's living in a home. Whatever her beliefs are, she is acting on it, and she has like full skin in the game. Like she's not living a second-hand life in the Ayn Randy thing. She's living a first-hand life.
Yeah.
The question I had.
Wait. Hold that thought, since the episode is about to end. Yeah. So, but yeah, we'll have full episodes for Kabir, for Preeti anyway. So hold that question. But yeah, see you in the next episode.
Yep.